Most people think of KFC as comfort food, bright lights, families eating together, the smell of fried chicken filling the air. But when the clock strikes midnight and the doors are locked, the atmosphere changes. The fryers are silent, the dining area is empty, and the building feels less like a restaurant and more like a tomb. Former night shift employees have come forward with stories that are anything but comforting. Stories of strange voices, shadowy figures, and encounters that still haunt them to this day. These are 3 terrifying true accounts from KFC night shift workers, and after hearing them, you might think twice before grabbing that late-night bucket of chicken. My name is Jason. I'm 23 years old, and about 2 years ago, I was working the night shift at a KFC near my college campus. When most people think of KFC, they picture families eating together, people laughing, buckets of chicken being passed around. But if you've ever been inside one after midnight, when the doors are locked and it's just you and maybe one other employee, the atmosphere feels completely different. The smell of fried chicken still lingers, but without the crowd, it becomes heavy. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights seems louder, and every little sound echoes. I worked that job mostly because it fit my class schedule. The manager knew I could handle late hours, so I often got stuck with the graveyard shift. At first, I didn't mind. I'd throw on some music, clean up, and make sure the drive-thru was monitored until closing. But over time, I started to notice how unnatural it felt to be in such a busy place, completely empty, with nothing but the hum of refrigerators and the occasional clunk of the ice machine. That's when I started to understand why some of my coworkers joked that the place was haunted. I never believed them. I thought they were just trying to freak me out since I was new to the shift. But one night around 2:30 in the morning, I got a taste of what they were talking about. I was wiping down the counters when I heard the beep from my headset. The same beep you hear when someone pulls up to the drive-thru speaker. I froze for a second because we hadn't had a car come through for hours. But I answered like normal. "Welcome to KFC. Can I take your order?" That's when I heard it. A man's voice, calm, deep, a little muffled like static. He said, "3-piece spicy wings with a Diet Pepsi." I turned my head toward the drive-thru monitor. Nothing. The cameras showed an empty lane, no headlights, no car. Just wet pavement from the rain earlier that night. I figured it had to be interference. Maybe someone with a radio was nearby, or a glitch in the headset. I tried to laugh it off, but something about the way the order was spoken felt too clear, too intentional. A few minutes later, the headset beeped again. My chest tightened immediately, and this time, it was the exact same voice, repeating the exact same order. 3-piece spicy wings with a Diet Pepsi. But something was different. It didn't sound distant, like it was coming through the speaker outside. It sounded closer, as if the voice was bleeding through the headset right next to my ear. I checked the camera again. Still nothing. Out of instinct, I glanced at the stainless steel fryer window in front of me. And that's when I swear I saw movement. A shadow, passing quick across the reflection. When I spun around, the kitchen was empty. At this point, my heart was pounding. I ripped the headset off and set it on the counter. I wanted to be done with it. I tried to keep myself busy with cleaning, ignoring the tight feeling in my chest. But then, I swear this happened. The headset beeped again, by itself. No one was wearing it. I stood frozen, staring at it. And then, clear as day, I heard the voice again. Except this time, it didn't just give the order. It whispered, "I'm already inside." I felt every hair on my body stand up. My hands went cold, my knees almost gave out. I grabbed a broom like it could actually protect me, and searched the entire restaurant. The bathrooms, the back storage, even the freezer. Nothing. No one. But the worst part, the smell of fried chicken, that heavy, greasy smell that always hung in the air, suddenly seemed stronger, like someone had just opened a fresh bucket right next to me. I don't know why, but in that moment, it made me feel sick. I barely made it through the rest of the shift. When the sun came up, I handed my keys to the manager and told him I couldn't do nights anymore. He didn't even look surprised. He just nodded, like he'd heard it before. And later, I found out from one of my coworkers that I wasn't the only one. Multiple employees over the years had reported hearing the same exact thing, same order, same voice, always around the same time. To this day, no one knows who or what placed that order. All I know is, whenever I hear the words, 3-piece spicy wings with a Diet Pepsi, it makes my stomach turn. And I haven't stepped foot inside a KFC after midnight since. My name is Maria. A few years ago, I was working the night shift at a KFC in my hometown. I was 22 at the time, a single mom, just trying to make ends meet. I wasn't the type of person who believed in ghosts or the paranormal. Honestly, I didn't even think about that stuff. My only focus was working enough hours to cover bills and take care of my daughter. But after one experience in that restaurant's basement, I'll never look at night shifts the same way again. The basement was always the part of the building I hated the most. To get down there, you had to walk through a narrow door in the back of the kitchen, then take a steep set of concrete steps. The air always felt damp, and there was the smell of cleaning chemicals mixed with something musty, like wet cardboard. The lighting was weak, just a few buzzing fluorescent bulbs that flickered if you left them on too long. Most employees avoided going down there unless they had to. That's where we stored extra cleaning supplies, mop buckets, and boxes of ingredients we didn't need upstairs. Because I was new and usually scheduled for nights, I got sent down there a lot. At first, I told myself it was no big deal. It was just a basement. But the silence down there was different. Upstairs, even at 2 or 3 a.m., there was always some kind of sound. The low hum of refrigerators, the occasional crackle of the fryer, the ice machine dropping cubes. Down in the basement, though, it was like stepping into another world. Completely still, heavy, like the walls were pressing in on you. One of my first strange experiences happened during a closing shift. I had been sent down to grab another box of cleaning rags. As I walked toward the storage shelves, I heard what sounded like a soft knocking. 3 slow taps. At first, I thought maybe it was pipes or the building settling, but it felt intentional. I froze, listening. It stopped. When I turned to leave, I noticed something that made my skin prickle. One of the mop handles that had been leaning upright against the wall was now lying flat across the floor. I didn't hear it fall. I didn't see it move. But it wasn't where it had been seconds before. I tried to shrug it off, told myself I was just tired. But things got worse. Another night, I was sent down to get more floor cleaner. This time, as I reached the bottom of the stairs, the lights overhead flickered. Not just once, but a few times, like they were struggling to stay on. I stopped in place, clutching the handrail. Then I heard it, the sound of footsteps. They were faint but steady, coming from behind me on the stairs. I spun around, expecting to see one of my coworkers messing with me, but there was no one there. I called out, my voice echoing in the narrow stairwell. "Hello? Who's down here?" Silence. When I finally forced myself to turn back, I saw something that almost made me run right then. The shelves where we kept boxes looked different. A couple of the boxes had been shifted, stacked at odd angles, like someone had been rummaging through them. But I was alone. I told myself I was imagining things, grabbed the cleaner, and rushed upstairs. But the final night I ever went down there is the one I'll never forget. It was close to 3 a.m., and I was asked to bring up a case of soda syrup from the basement. I didn't want to go, but I didn't argue. I figured I could be quick. I grabbed my phone for light, opened the basement door, and walked down. The air was colder than usual. Every step down the stairs made my stomach sink deeper. I found the box, lifted it, and started back toward the stairs. That's when it happened. The door at the top of the basement slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the enclosed space. I screamed and dropped the box, cans rolling across the concrete floor. I sprinted up the steps 2 at a time, my heart hammering so loud I could barely hear. When I reached the door, I yanked at it, and it opened easily. I stumbled out into the kitchen, gasping. My coworkers looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I asked them who closed the door, but they swore they hadn't touched it. None of them had even been near the back hallway. That was the last time I went down there. I refused, no matter what. A few weeks later, I quit the job altogether. But before I left, one of the older employees pulled me aside. He told me something that still makes me shiver. Years ago, he said another worker had collapsed in that basement during a night shift. By the time anyone found him, he was gone. No one ever liked talking about it, but some believe that's why strange things always happen down there. To this day, whenever I see a basement door, I think of that night. And I wonder if whatever was following me in that KFC basement is still down there, waiting. James never considered himself the type to believe in the supernatural. He was 22 at the time, just out of college, and working nights at a KFC in a small suburban town. The pay wasn't great, but the night shift had its perks. Fewer customers meant fewer headaches, and the quiet hours gave him a chance to think. He often told himself the hardest part of the job was staying awake until closing. But that was before the night he heard an order from a customer who didn't exist. It was late summer of 2016. The night in question began like any other. James clocked in around 9 p.m., joining the skeleton crew of 3 other employees. By midnight, the other workers had left, and James was left to finish up alone. That was typical for weekdays. The franchise owner figured it didn't make sense to pay multiple people when traffic after 11 p.m. was almost non-existent. The building was quiet. Too quiet, James would later say. The hum of the refrigerators and the occasional drip from the soda machine filled the air like background noise in an empty house. Every now and then, a car would drive by on the road outside, headlights flashing briefly across the parking lot before disappearing into darkness. He kept himself busy wiping counters, refilling napkin dispensers, and checking the fryers one last time. At around 2:30 in the morning, he leaned against the counter, sipping a soda, staring at the clock, and waiting for his shift to end. That's when the headset crackled. "Hello? Can I place an order?" James froze. The drive-through intercom had come to life. He glanced at the security monitor that showed the camera feed from outside. The screen was empty. No headlights, no vehicle at the speaker box. For a moment, he thought he imagined it. Maybe the system glitched, picking up a stray radio frequency. He adjusted the headset. The voice came again, clearer this time. "I'd like a bucket. Extra crispy. Family size." It was a woman's voice. Soft, almost polite, but with something strange underneath. A flatness, like someone speaking without emotion. James stared at the monitor again. Nothing. The lot was empty, the asphalt glistening slightly under the dim parking lot lamps. Hello?" he asked cautiously into the headset. "Yes," the voice replied. "A family bucket, please. Extra crispy." James swallowed. He decided to play along. Maybe a car's headlights were out, or the camera was broken. "Okay," he said slowly. "Anything else with that?" There was a long pause. The kind of pause that makes you realize you're not just talking to someone, you're waiting for something. Then, the voice whispered, "Don't forget the biscuits." A chill crawled down James's spine. James looked at the empty lot one more time, then set the headset down and walked toward the drive-through window. He pulled it open, expecting to see, well, something. Maybe a prankster, maybe a car parked too far back. But there was nothing, just the night air drifting in, carrying the faint smell of fried food. He stepped outside. His sneakers scraped softly against the pavement. The lot was completely empty. Not a single car, not even the sound of one driving away. James walked to the intercom. He half expected to find a group of kids hiding in the bushes, laughing at him. But there was no one, just silence. His heart pounded as he returned inside, locking the door behind him. He told himself it was just the system malfunctioning. Maybe feedback from another signal. Maybe someone messing with a CB radio. That had to be it. But deep down, he didn't believe it. Back at the counter, James tried to shake it off. He put his headset down and focused on closing tasks. But only 10 minutes later, the static buzzed again. "Are my biscuits ready?" James nearly dropped the tray he was carrying. This time, he didn't answer. He stood frozen, staring at the monitor, his throat dry. "Don't keep me waiting," the voice added, sharper now, almost annoyed. James ripped the headset off and slammed it onto the counter. His hands were trembling. He wanted to run out the door, but part of him couldn't move. The voice didn't come again, not for the rest of the shift. But James didn't forget it. The next morning, James told his manager. He explained everything: the voice, the order, the biscuits, the empty lot. The manager laughed it off. "Probably a prank. Kids have scanners, you know. Don't worry about it." But James couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just kids. The way the voice sounded, calm, flat, almost mechanical. And the way it knew to add, "Don't forget the biscuits," as if it was mocking him. He started to dread his night shifts after that. Every crackle of the headset made his skin crawl. He began leaving the headset on the counter, refusing to wear it unless absolutely necessary. He worked faster, trying to close earlier, just to avoid being in the building too long after 2 a.m. Weeks later, one of his co-workers admitted something. She said she once heard the same voice on her shift, a polite woman ordering chicken. But when she looked outside, no one was there. She never mentioned it because she thought it was her imagination. That confession confirmed James' fears. James only lasted another month at KFC before quitting. He found another job at a hardware store, one that kept him on daytime shifts. But he admitted years later that he never forgot that voice, the way it slid through the headset like a whisper from nowhere, the emptiness of the lot, the calm demand for biscuits. He said sometimes, late at night, when he's driving home and passes a KFC, he swears he hears static in the back of his mind. And he remembers that strange order that was never picked up. James thought working at a fast food restaurant was supposed to be boring, routine, predictable. But what happened that night made him realize something unsettling. Sometimes the scariest customers are the ones you never actually see. Those were the first of 3 chilling encounters from KFC night shift workers. James' story is just one reminder that sometimes the scariest things don't happen in abandoned houses or graveyards. They happen in the places we know best, when no one's around to see it. If you've ever worked a night shift or had something unexplainable happen to you on the job, drop your story in the comments below. I'll be reading through them, and who knows, your story might end up featured in a future video. And if this story made you think twice about grabbing a late-night bucket of chicken, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next 2 encounters. Because trust me, they only get darker from here. Until next time, stay safe and don't answer voices that shouldn't be there.